Hello. Sorry that I am starting a little bit late here, guys. I started my live video on my own feed and not actually in the elevated group. So I apologize for the late start, but here I am, and hopefully some of you that had joined me over there will be joining me over here because I've got a great topic tonight, and I'm really excited to talk about it because it's something that has definitely been happening in my world a little bit lately. So, and I know same for Ricky. So I wanted to talk about it because that's what we do in coaching world. Hello, Charlene. Hi, how are you? We talk about things when something is happening. There's no hiding it. We can't. That's the benefit of living with a coach. That it's you deal with your shit on the rapid fire. You're not getting out of your own. You're getting out of your own way very quickly, which is awesome. So back to the subject: getting out of your own head. And I want to talk about this because the way I'd like to think about it is like getting out of your head. And there's that saying, getting out of your head and into your heart, getting out of your head and into your life, getting into your head and feeling alive again. So really it's the idea of getting out of your head, in your own little world, and getting present again. So we're going to go through kind of a structure with our talk, and I'm going to give you the outline right now. So we're going to start by talking exactly what I mean by that when I say living in your head, what we're getting in your head. That could mean a whole bunch of things. So I'm going to really hone in on what specifically I'm talking about right now. And then I want to talk about what we can do to look at those thoughts and actually use them to our advantage. How can we make this a productive thing? Because it is. Anything that's happening on repeat or is sort of in your world like that is happening for a reason, so that we've got to pay attention, right? So how can we use it to our benefit? And then I want to walk into how we can do that. So how do we actually use it to our benefit? What is the physical thing that we're going to do in order to do that? And then I want to talk about some helpful tips that will actually help you do this process and what to do when you're finding that you're kind of stuck in this place. So if you see me looking down, I am just checking my notes every once in a while because I did a little research, so wanted to make sure. So let's get started. So what I actually mean when I say get out of your head or being in your head, what does that mean? And I'm pretty sure, so, most people do this from time to time in their life, and some way more than others. And so it's not all the time, but we can definitely slip into these patterns, or certain things might trigger us to get into this pattern where we start to do, you could also call it like mind wandering. So you're inside your mind wandering around, kind of thoughts kind of happening. So that can look like, daydreaming, sort of being inside somewhere else when somebody else is talking, or maybe you're listening to a presentation, hopefully not this one, or you are, I remember being in university and listening, 3-hour long lectures, and by halfway through I'm somewhere else, right? So there's, the idea of daydreaming. There's the idea of really like pondering life, right? That's also a thing where we're in our head, where we're really kind of going deep and finding out, what's really important to us. We're doing a little more soul searching, right? Like searching, pondering life, like what happens to us when we die? Thought bubble, right? So that's pondering life. So we have daydreaming, pondering life, mind wandering, kind of just going aimlessly back and forth to thoughts. What I'm specifically talking about tonight is getting in your head in the way that it's those negative thoughts, that self-destructive spiral that can be quite vicious sometimes. I mean, we are our own worst critics. We've heard that saying a bunch of times, but we know how much it is true. We can be quite mean to ourselves. If you actually stop and think about some of the shit that you say to yourself in your head, and can you imagine saying it to another human being? If you honestly can, I mean, like, I know some of the things I say to myself. There's no way I would say that to somebody else, put them down that way, send them down that self-destructive path, totally discourage them, or tell them I don't believe in them, that they're not capable of doing what they want to do. I would never say that to somebody. And not just because I'm a coach, as a person, anybody in my life. So we are the meanest and the cruelest to ourselves. And so when we get trapped in that spiral, it doesn't just stay here, we sink very quickly, right? So, and then that also looks like anxiety. So that can create physical reactions, having those thoughts kind of repeat, and then they come down here into our body. Maybe we get that heavy chest, right? Maybe we get the shoulders come in, we hide. For me, my eyes go hazy even sometimes when my anxiety is really bad. I can't actually see well because I'm not seeing the truth. Maybe we can't talk as clearly. We can't articulate our words. Our stomach gets cramps. We get nervous stomach. Our bodies are physically reacting to the anxiety. So it's, and then even in that, we can start looking at things like having really delusional thoughts, right? You get yourself so worked up, you're going way out to left field, thinking about things that are just not true, at all. And you've somehow created something in your mind that it is true and you're stuck there, right? So it's like I was saying in my earlier video, a lot of things coming in, a lot of thoughts happening, nothing's coming out though. It's all trapped in there and you're sinking. So it's that feeling, which can actually create kind of a dysphoric feeling in a way too, like you're not actually inside your body, or you're sort of just floating, or like you're almost observing your life, which people might call numbness. You're that overthinking, analyzing everything, leading to this numbness, and you can't ever make a decision like that, right? You're even to the point where if you're in that kind of dysphoric, kind of delusional place where you're just sinking, you never notice how you lose your appetite, and even though you need to eat, you can't even decide what you want to eat. Like there's all of these things where you're not actually being able to function. So they actually did this study way back, I think probably around 2010, somewhere in there. Harvard did this study where they actually used a special iPhone app where they would kind of almost prompt people throughout the day and ask them what they were thinking about and how they felt, like, so rating on a happiness scale. So, and what they concluded out of all of it is that a wandering mind is an unhappy mind. So when you're kind of all over the place and you're kind of bouncing back and forth between maybe 2 or 3 thoughts kind of thing, and you're there and you're not focused, you're not present in the moment of what you're doing, this wandering mind is an unhappy mind. It was correlated with higher degrees of unhappiness. That makes sense, right? When we think about everything that I was just saying, feeling really trapped and heavy, how are you going to really be able to feel happy, right? And so I know that I have been feeling this way in the last, probably about the last like 4 or 5 days. And I haven't been sharing about what I've been doing. Yeah, awesome, Charlene. That's good. Like looking into that. So Charlene said, a wandering mind is truly unhappy. When I look into this for myself, it's true. And it is, when we're not focused on our goals or any kind of destination, even if it is being excited about what you're going to have for lunch that day, if you're not there, you're not present, we just allow, it's almost like let's say you're almost like guarding. When you let your guard down in that capacity, where you're that unfocused capacity, we allow all of the stuff to kind of come in, which can be helpful. And we're going to talk about that next, how to make that a helpful thing. So what are you thinking about? That's my question for you. And think about that. What are you thinking about when you are going through those moments? So I really had to, because I've been waking up feeling just awful inside and icky and not being able to focus on anything, not being able to set even a small priority list for the day, not getting there. So I'm like, what am I thinking about? What is it? What's going on? So often it can be the same old stories, right? The same old fears when we get in a place where maybe kind of a few things haven't gone our way, and we get in a place where we're feeling vulnerable. And so then those same old stories start to they find it right. We let our guard down and here they come floating in. So it's the same old stuff that creep in and keeping us tied to that victim mindset, right? I'm so broke. I'm so tired. I can't do anything. My family doesn't believe in me. I'll never get that job. They'll never hire me because I don't have this qualification, or I don't have that. Or I could never go out and say if they knew how I really felt, they wouldn't love me. They wouldn't know me. So we go into that assumption mode that keeps us locked into that victim mindset, right? And it's totally oppressive. It's heavy. It's heavy. We can't, it's my fault, or, they did this to me, so I can't ever get past that pain. There's so many ways that it presents itself that it can be overwhelming. So there's a lot of those things. So it's even, I find a lot of people, are overplaying situations in their head, right? Maybe you're thinking about a conversation you had with somebody at work, or something your boss said to you at work, and you're just constantly replaying it and replaying it and replaying it and thinking about different outcomes. And even though we all know you cannot go back and change anything, all you can change is the future, and all you can change is the present, right? And how you change the future is the present. You change the present right now. So thinking about things like that. So it's overplaying situations in your work, conversations, even thinking about your bank account over and over and over again. What's going on? I've got to pay this bill. I got to pay this bill. So always kind of thinking about these sort of, and really, even, that piece of it, this is a good one. I just thought of this, that piece of advice that you didn't follow, just made me think of that Alanis Morissette song. That piece of advice that you just didn't take, and thinking about how you could have changed something if you had taken that. I mean, right in there in itself, that's a lesson, right? It's just a lesson to learn to listen to your intuition more. So really it is a valuable, valuable thing. And before I go into that, another one I just thought of is, a lot of times we get hooked on something on social media that we've seen, or, really getting trapped in looking at somebody else's highlight reel and comparing ourselves. That is one of the huge things that people get trapped in. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about some of those things once we move on. I don't see what Charlene, what have you said? So that I've had too many goals, but not focusing on specific goals to come into fruition. That there's a spiral to look at a singular goal, and instead I make myself busy with cooking just so I feel like I'm doing 100%. Charlene, I wish I could give you a huge hug right now, because I just totally understand, right? There's this huge thing where a lot of times, and I had this conversation actually with a client the other day, we start thinking about all of these goals that we have and these exciting things that are happening, and we're thinking about it, and we get almost 3/4 of the way there, thinking about it, how we're going to do it. Okay, this makes sense. I want this and this. And then we stop and we don't take action. So then locked inside your head. There was no release. So it's all of these ideas coming in, but nothing's coming out into action. So there's nothing actualized in that experience. So it just stays trapped here to just keep going and going and going and going. Makes nobody happy. So yeah, absolutely, Sharon. Thank you for sharing that, because it is 100%, I think, of an experience that a lot of people have, where they're just kind of not doing it, right? So if I can give you a piece of advice, Charlene, and we literally, me and Ricky watched a video on this the other night, and it was that it was productive versus busy being versus being productive. There's this video on YouTube that we watched. It was awesome. Totally recommend it. I'll put it up on here after. But it was just talking about the difference between, prioritizing like a to-do list, a priority list, and a to-do list. So a to-do list when busy, making sure you're busy doing stuff. Like you can be in front of the computer for 8 hours a day just to feel like you're doing something, but are you actually being productive, right? So it's, yeah, no, absolutely. So the list, so they were talking about productive people have 1 to 3, like top 3 priorities for the day. So you make that goal, only three goals for the day, and you complete those in the day. The top ones that need to happen first. So in that like 18-mile long to-do list, you take the 3 ones that are most important that day to get done first, and you complete those, or you work on those. And then you go day to day like that. So it's way less overwhelming, but you actually end up completing something, or, getting a significant chunk of it done, taking action in order to actually feel good about that. Yeah, so I'll pop that video in there for you. It was really very helpful, actually, and I actually did that today. And so this is giving away my ending, but it really helped me a lot today, so I wanted to share it with you guys. So okay, so let's back it up a little bit. So we were talking about all of the different ways. What are we thinking about? What's actually happening there in our head? And Charlene's example, perfect. So identify that pattern, which is exactly what you've done there. So that was the next part I wanted to move into, is identifying the pattern or the habit that's happening, because this is how we make it a productive thing. And there's other parts to it too, but this is the first part, is that we actually take a look. We get willing to really be honest with ourselves. We get willing to really sit down, write it down, whatever you need to do. I'll talk about more of those examples later on how to do that, but we need to take a minute to look at exactly what we're thinking about. We get it out there so we can identify the pattern or the habit that's happening. And I've written down some really common ones that end up happening with people with what I'm talking about, with this really negative spiral that happens. Things like comparison. So comparing yourself to others. Okay, well, look at how much they've done. I haven't done that. That must mean that I can't do it, or that I'm useless, worthless. Spiral, right? Like, notice how they just get worse. So there's comparison. Perfectionism. So if I can't do it perfect, or just like this ultimate example in my head, then I'm not going to do it at all. So we get in this whole perfectionism. It wasn't work. It wasn't good. It wasn't good. Worse. I'm all the way back down to that I'm useless. Then we stop doing it, right? We stop believing in ourselves. Another one is judgment, self-judgment. So we're just sitting there and allowing, maybe somebody said something, a comment, we're totally taking it personally, and we're allowing that to come in and just swim in our heads, self-judging over and over and over and over again. Another one is regret. Going back into your past and regretting things and reliving those situations over and over and over and over again. I mean, please tell me how this is helpful. It's not, but we do it, right? Like, we do it, and we just, because we feel guilty, which is the next one, or we feel shameful about something, or we haven't forgiven ourselves. So we continue to self-judge and to regret things. Another one is control. So, maybe you have employees, or maybe, you can't, you've got to hand off something at work to somebody else, and they're going to put their part on the project, or, even your money, even control around money stuff, allowing someone, hi, Dorothy, allowing somebody else to come in and help you and look at your stuff, right? Or even in coaching, sometimes we see it, right? It's like people, and then you have to drill them and ask the question, what aren't you telling me? What are you hiding right now? Letting go of that control of yourself, right? That of your own healing, to let somebody in, and that control to begin a relationship, connect deeper in a relationship, to accept love, to embrace the universe and all of the amazing gifts that it has, that sense of control, and we just keep letting it float and float and float. So another, which kind of even goes even further, you know, things like self-hatred. I mean, we could keep going, right? You know, and really it all comes down to fear. Those are all things that are based out of fear. There's no love in any of that, right? So what are the thoughts that keep cycling? Are those any of those thoughts? Are those the foundational pieces of the thoughts that are happening for you over and over and over again? So for me, a lot of mine were fear-based entirely, you know, like, well, I'm not doing it this way that this amazing person is doing it. And, you know, I follow a lot of different coaches, a lot of different motivational speakers, a lot of writers, you know, really powerful women. And I'm just like, I'm not doing it like them. That must mean I'm awful and I'm not seeing these results, or I'm not doing this. So I just start picking away, perfectionism, which all it does is it takes away from who you actually are, because I'm here to tell you that there is nothing out there that I know I'm coming to flow, Lindsay, I promise, this week. I can't wait to see you tomorrow. I'm excited. So we're not allowing, no, now I'm all thrown off. Okay, let me check my trusty notes here. So, right. So what is the message? This is what I'm trying to say. So what is the message that you're meant to get? And maybe, you know what? Maybe my message right now is to float. Thank you, Lindsay. Maybe that message is to actually just start putting some systems in place so you don't have to feel out of control. Maybe that message is that you need to do some self-forgiveness work. Maybe that message is that you need to dig a little deeper and find out why you have these habits. Dig a little deeper. Why do you hate yourself so much? Who taught you to do that? When did that start? What goals are you really actually, what are your top priorities? If you had to make that list today of the top 3 things you were going to do, the message might be that you don't know what those are. So think about it, because your heart wants you to know. The universe wants you to know so you can come up, show up, and leave your mark in this world, because that's what we're here for, right? Okay, so they're offering us lessons, and sometimes it could be even to simply relax, right? Like maybe I just need to float. Maybe we just need to relax and let go a little bit more so we can actually allow these things to come to the surface. And that's what's happening in there. It's like, you know, this buzz, that doesn't need to happen if you don't want it to. You have control over this. If you would like to make a difference in your life, it's gonna relax, right? So, or maybe you're not happy in your job. Maybe, you know, you're not happy in your relationship. Maybe you're not happy, you know, maybe you haven't admitted something that you're doing to yourself, and you're lying to somebody, or you're holding on to something and it's just sitting there in the pit of your stomach like guilt. You know, the truth, sharing the truth is probably one of the most liberating things in the entire world. And maybe your mind, your chilling in your head, is just trying to tell you that you need to let it go. You need to share what you need to share. You're not happy. You need to express this. Maybe it's beautiful. Maybe it's beautiful feelings of love that you haven't been able to express, or gratitude to somebody, and you actually feel guilty for holding on to them. You know, not everything is a negative thing, right? But I mean, it's kind of weird that maybe, you know, it'd be backwards that you're spiraling negatively because anyway, you know what I'm trying to say is that there's something there that needs to come to the surface that you need to share. So relax and let it out. And let's talk about, before we move on to some really awesome tips that I've researched today on how we can start to let some of this out, and why it's important that we download these messages from our subconscious that keep buzzing in our ears, buzzing in the back of our head, even giving us headaches, you know what I mean? That like almost that oppressive, like, please listen to me, please listen to me. And even, you know, paying attention to our bodies too, like I was saying in the beginning, looking at what's hurting. What side of the body is it happening on? Am I getting more anxiety in my stomach, in my chest? Am my eyes going hazy? Is it in my throat? Where is it showing up for you? That's going to give you an idea too of where you need to look. So I really need to impress the importance of the fact that a lot of these thoughts that end up having going on in our head, and Charlene, your example is really perfect for this actually. So those goals, that all of the thoughts are either in the past or in the future. So you're thinking about something that has happened, or that you've done, or that you've seen, or that you've experienced, going back and back with guilt, regret, blame, shame, all of those things. Or we're thinking about something in the future. Will I have enough money for my bills? Will I have enough of this? Will I be able to go to work tomorrow? We're thinking, will I be able to retire comfortably? Will I be able to afford this? Will I be able to go there? Will I be able to show up for this person that needs me? What about my presentation that I have in 6 months, 2 weeks? Really we're projecting. So it's in the past or in the future. Rarely do we get stuck in the present moment, because when we're doing that, that's called meditation. That's called floating. That is called being present, so present in the moment that you are literally interacting with the energy that is happening and circulating with you right away, right now. So rarely are we trapped in the present moment. That's very rare, right? To really truly meet somebody that is always present. Okay, so let's dive into some really helpful ways. Flip my notes over here, that we can start to work with this, and in a healthy way, of course, because there's always the option to, go drink your face off. You can forget about all your feelings and the stuff that's in your head. You can go smoke your brains out, do many other drugs. There are lots of ways that we have learned to cope with this junk that is constantly happening in our head that aren't necessarily healthy. Even binge eating, even any sort of eating, any sort of food stuff, shopping, any sort of addictions that we use to kind of feel something within the numbness or to numb, right? So there are healthy options out there, and I'd like to share some with you. So the first thing that we want to do, and which I was talking about, is how can we make this useful for us? So the first thing that we need to do in that moment is get quiet. And I love this because last night Lindsay actually said, Ricky asked her the question, if you could leave something with people, what would that be? Like really a piece of advice, or, as someone who advocates for getting quiet, what would you like to leave for people? And the thing she said was to breathe. And I just love that, because that's how we can actually quiet our central nervous system. So when we're in that fight or flight anxiety mode, our central nervous system is just going bananas, right? So how can we calm that down enough that we can get that stillness, we can get quiet? And right away, something that absolutely everybody has access to, even if you use a machine to do it, is we can breathe. And that will allow us to become present, because we're focusing on our breath. We're allowing that to actually slow our heart rates down, actually connect to our central nervous system, and begin to start firing those responses and messages within our body to take it down. Gear down, guys, right? So right there, getting quiet, listening, and then we need to be willing to hear it. And that's where I brought in, the idea that we've got lots of ways to cope that aren't healthy. We've got lots of ways to distract ourselves. That is not something new. And we all know and have our preferred way to do that. But are we willing to sit down and actually focus on those thoughts and be real about them? Be really honest. And no matter how silly it sounds, no matter, it could be something like, my sister, God love her, she would come into the office and be like, will you read this email? And she would have literally taken a picture of it on her phone and bring me the email and be like, can I send this? And I'm just like, are you kidding me? It's that bad, right? That perfectionism of being unable to just live your life, right? Just do what you need to do and press send on that email, or, always kind of thinking about the past, right? So even if you think that is something silly. It's something that is blocking, right? It's something that is blocking you from being able to just move forward and make a decision. So being willing to actually look at what are the thoughts that are cycling through your head, and look at them and be honest about them. So how, that is cultivating a really strong discipline around self-awareness. So being able to actually slow down, sit down, be honest, take a look, and cultivate. That's an exercise, right? We need to exercise that muscle, that self-awareness muscle. So some great ways: journal, write it out. Oh God, I love it, right? I need to do more of it. I haven't done enough. Another way, if you don't like to write, or if it hurts your hand, carpal tunnel, whatever you got going on, vlog. Just do what I'm doing. Turn on your camera and make some video logs. Make a note to it. If you've got some really cool insights, like make a note. Okay, go back to that. Write it all. Do it verbally. Maybe even an audio one if you don't want to look at yourself in the camera. And then I don't want to use the word vent, but what I mean is share. Because we as human beings need to share what's going on. We can't keep it all to ourselves. We'll explode with all of the feelings. So if we don't share these things, then nothing's going to happen. We're not going to make any room in ourselves, within our universe, in order to actually change anything. So I'm going to share a personal example before I move on to, I've got 3 more tips, but I had enough of how I had been feeling for the last couple of days. So I decided to, Ricky asked me, he's just straight up again, like I said, you can't get away with shit when you live with a coach, right? And he's, what's going on? Like, share. So I just sat and I shared with him exactly how I felt. And I was sooky and I'm, just stomping around and, but he gave it to me straight, and he asked me questions and we talked about it, and I got real, and I was able to actually come to the conclusion and write a priority list. The top 3, I had 4 priorities things that I wanted to get done today. And I actually got like 3.5 of them done. So it was really a great experience of sharing. And likewise, he also did the same thing with me just earlier. He was, expressing some concerns that he had. He's got a lot going on right now, as all you guys know. And so he expressed some concerns about putting it all together and getting things organized. And boom, like that, he shared this afternoon, and he heard the news he needed to hear this evening. So it's really about allowing yourself to give yourself room to be honest, and allow it to make room within your universe for the thing that you need to come in, right? To remove that anxiety, that swirl, that negative death vice grip out of the way, so then the good stuff can come in, right? So, and it's also about, like, don't resist, like, what we resist persists, right? Like, so if I keep resisting sharing, or if I keep resisting that I'm having these thoughts, like that I'm actually worried about this silliest little thing, or that, I'll never be this kind of coach, or I'll never be this person. If I keep having those thoughts, I keep resisting the fact that I have those thoughts, that's what's going to happen. I'm just like, I'm sealing my fate right there. Just like, yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, no, I'm fine. Everything's cool. Everything's fine. Not being honest. We all know that's how you literally make that happen, because they're right there, and they grow bigger and they grow bigger and they grow bigger until there's something physical, right? So another way to, in that, getting quiet and getting still, is that it's ironic that I'm saying this on social media, but get away from social media for a little while. So you can really get quiet within your own thoughts. Don't take a journal out with your phone and put your headphones on and, scroll through. Like, get alone, actually be by yourself. Don't have that constant companion buddy on the side there. Okay. So number 2, release. And a big part of what I was saying there was the sharing piece. That is absolutely fundamental to the release part. So get personal, open up, share your guts, put it all out there. And I was reading this article, and I really loved how they explained this, actually, because it was sort of like, when we start having these cycling thoughts like this, they just start to become these like awkward sort of like bombardment kind of things happening, right? They're fragmented and they don't actually mean anything except for they start to elicit those anxiety feelings and we get those body reactions. So what they call the whole idea behind sharing is they called it storytelling. So as opposed to, because on our own, we've got these fragmented thoughts, but once we actually start to talk out loud, we begin to tell a story. So the puzzle pieces start to connect, and then we can actually talk ourselves out of what's happening. And the same journaling works the exact same way. When we start to write it down, we start to tell a story. We start to actually connect from one event to the next, to the next, to the next. And we can actually start to see why we're thinking these things. What's the root of it? What is the real issue? And always ask yourself that question at the end or in your journaling. Oh, awesome. Good. Thank you, Charlene. I wanted to share that your hand gestures and eye expressions are very powerful in discussion and helpful. Good. I'm glad. Very animated when I talk. So I had thought that getting real is better when we express so we can release, thinking in the moment. Absolutely. Absolutely. Got to get real. Like, I'm a hand talker and an eye talker. So, that's me being real. And I was saying, I'm stomping around this morning and being a total baby, but I needed that. I needed to just let that inner child, those childish thoughts that I had, those childish doubts, I needed to let them out and embody that. I needed to embody my feelings and let them out. So I did, and I totally just curled up in Ricky's arms and just being a suck, and I just need this love and I just need to let out. But it was so helpful. I can't even explain, and then having him be that sounding board, okay, well, let's think of some ways that you can actually get out of this place so you feel better about your productivity and you feel better about what you're actually putting out there in the world. So it's constructive, right? Totally could have just been I'm just going to take the day off and not do anything. And where does that leave me, right? Because then I would just do a bunch of crap where, like you said, Charlene, I'm just being busy and making no, right? So getting personal and sharing. So, it's really helpful, and that's why that storytelling piece is so important, because it's really helpful. We get that mirror, that backdrop, in order to actually reflect back to us. So we can create something where we're hearing our own thoughts, and we can actually start to, the same way, if I were to go back and listen to this video after I'm done, I would be able to you can take notes, right? You can actually pick things out, and somebody can hear things that you're saying, but you're not actually, and you're feeling, but you're not actually able to see. So having that mirror, and even if you do it journaling by yourself, if you don't have somebody that you can talk to that way, which can be a partner, a friend, a family member, or a coach. But the thing is that you want to make sure that it can be someone that you can trust to not have too much of an emotional investment on your part, right? Not somebody who's going to be like, you're right, you do this, yes, 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 because I'm here to tell you that is only going to send you further down the spiral when you realize that wasn't helpful. Because the ultimate way that we grow is meeting in that support and that challenge, right? You need an amazing partner, family member, friend meets you halfway. You've got equal amounts of both, because you can't have somebody always saying, yes, 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 you're the best. It just doesn't work. Look at celebrities for an example, right? You've got half of them, A, killing themselves, or B, totally ending up combusting with plastic surgery and drug addictions and all of these things. They're not healthy, right? I mean, some are, the people that don't have these types of people, but we see pop stars and stuff just falling apart, right? When you have too many people telling you that you're always doing something right. Because let me tell you, you're not. Nobody ever does. So here's the thing. Piecing together what you actually need to know out of those messages, having that mirror, really important. So number 3. So we've got, let me go over them. So we've got 1, getting quiet and listening, being honest and being willing to hear what your body or your mind is trying to tell you. Number 2, the release. So sharing that, journaling it, vlogging it, like vlogging meaning like a video blog is what I mean by that. Anything, you know, that you're actually getting this out so you can have that sounding board. And number 3 is gratitude. So, you know, you've come from this really like low place. You've kind of worked yourself up. You're like, okay, so here I am. Oh, wait, here's my other hand. Wait, there we go. Here's my low vortex. And we're moving up out of that place where we start to see the light. We start to see, okay, this is what's happening. And now we come up to this high place. We bring ourselves up in that vibration of gratitude. We sit down and whatever you like to call it, count your blessings, gratitude list, say a prayer, have a moment of meditation, go outside in nature and breathe in the amazingness, feel alive, have a good big glass of water, get yourself hydrated, feeling good, feel your body move a little bit. So this morning I had my little stomp and we made a plan, and then I went into my bedroom and I did a good 45 minutes of yoga, moved my body. We made a really nice fresh juice and had that brought all those nutrients into my body. So I felt good, I felt strong again, and I felt capable. And then I made my priority list. So there was a lot of being gentle with yourself and allowing yourself to actually naturally move out of it. So not just forcing yourself to kind of go like, okay, spiraling out of control, right to I'm going to do, here's my list in order to feel productive, right? So actually allowing myself to gradually come up there, feel good, move my body, feel alive again, feel that sense of gratitude for the fact that I have this opportunity to do what I'm doing, right? Like, my life is thanks for all the hearts, guys. I love that. I love the support. You guys are just amazing. And that in itself, right there, that support, you know, that just like further instills like, yes, this is it. This is what you're doing. It's good. You're being here. You're being active in the world, in your life. So getting to a place where you can feel that. Yeah, hearts. Love it, love it, love it. That's my little heart dance. So number 4. So once you get yourself feeling really good, you're back up to like, okay, I'm not stomping around the house anymore. Number 4 is, of course, take action. And that's that last piece, right? Like I was saying, we've got all of these thoughts, all of these ideas, goals, 3/4 of the way through, and we're missing that last piece, which is the action piece. And that's very typical. Like that's very normal for a lot of people, right? But what this world is calling for right now, what we need more right now is people who are fearless in their authenticity, people who are fearless in taking action in their own way, right? And I don't mean like, let's all go be activists, let's all go be angry at the man and this and all. That's not what I mean. What I mean is being fearless in you, being fearless in your heart, getting out of your head, which is an act of fearlessness, and getting into your heart, getting into your life, getting into your essence, being you. So take an action in that. And that is the last step. So we're talking about making that small priority list, right? That we're talking about. Thank you guys for the love. I love it. So making that small priority list, it's like 3 things that you're doing, right? And because, when we actually achieve something, when we go out and achieve something, we get that dopamine rush, right? So we're like, okay, we're back on track here. We're feeling joy. We're feeling pleasure. We're feeling back on track. So making a list of the 3 or 4 things that realistically that you can, tackle. I don't mean like, here's my list, solve world hunger, take over politics, and eliminate racism. Done. Okay, let's go. Like, that shit is not possible in a fucking day, right? Like, they need to be things that you can handle in your day. You can realistically get it done. There's going to be a start and a completion happening, right? So, and this is the piece that allows you to be reminded that you are in control of your life. You are. Nobody else. So you got to show up. You got to do it, right? And you can change it. Every minute is an opportunity to change your life to be however you want it to be. Every minute. every minute. And I know sometimes it's hard to believe that. And I know it feels impossible sometimes. But that's why we go through this process. We go through this gratitude process. We go through this release process. We go through the process of getting quiet and honest with ourselves in order to understand who we are and what needs action, what needs to come out into the world, because it is hard. It is hard to be yourself in a world full of people who have, in a world full of highlight reels, and in a world full of yes people, in a world full of marketing and all of it, right? It's hard to be our authentic selves, but it's a choice whether or not it's hard. Ironically, and here I am saying it, and I'm just getting this in my head, like, really, Julia? Is that true? Is it true that it actually is hard to do those things? Or is it actually so easy that human beings, just because that's who we are, need to complicate it for some reason? We need to sit there and make it hard, right? Because when we can actually just be ourselves and actually just be so authentic, and we don't have any of those other limiting beliefs that are happening in there. Why am I getting all these sad faces? Who's putting those? Tell me what's up. Put it in the comments what you're feeling right now. What's coming up for you? Because I want to know. But why is it that we feel we need to layer all of these things and be subjected and put that guard down and allow those thoughts to come in that keep us trapped in our heads here, that keep us feeling and thinking that it's hard? Right? When, I guess in some respects, I think about Ricky, and I think about what he's doing right now, and how, there's a lot of speaking up for his truth and starting Unism, and starting this movement, and starting this society, this beautiful movement of people who just want to be themselves, who are standing for authenticity. Yeah, no, fair enough, Charlene. Absolutely, yeah. The fear of being authentic and overcoming the uncomfortable time of changing. Absolutely. And it is an uncomfortable time. I will give you that. So maybe we'll take the word hard out and we'll talk about it being uncomfortable. Absolutely, because it is uncomfortable. It's a big period of change. It's almost like you can feel the gears inside of your body switching, right? It's like you're like, no, that's not going to be. It's been like this for 20 years, but no, we're going to pull it over here, and you're going to let this flow through you on a more free basis, and that can feel uncomfortable. Absolutely, and I totally honor that, and that is a piece of everybody's journey. But on the other side of that, and everything that you can get in your life is relative to how uncomfortable you're willing to be, right? And even today, in sharing with Ricky, I was so uncomfortable to admit what I was actually worried about, because it's hard. It's hard to, when you're like, oh man, I know what he's going to say. He's going to tell me to smarten up, and so it's hard to actually put that out there. But I'm so glad that I did, because it turned everything around for me, right? It's like, just get through it, just breathe through it, and it will come up. It will come. So, in that, we are the ones who are in control of that. I can use my breath to be in control of my uncomfortableness and allow myself to work through it, and work through and create systems in my life so that whatever I was worrying about, I don't need to worry about anymore. So what I was talking about just a couple of minutes ago, about that fearlessly stepping into that authenticity and being who we are and delivering that message, is it easy or is it hard? And I think that once we get past that uncomfortable time of changing, we step into a place where it is so fucking easy, that is just spilling out everywhere. It is just who we are. Like look at my, this is who I am. This is what I mean. Like, it's just coming out of nowhere, and you can't help it. It just becomes effortless, and it's not something you have to think about anymore. And other people's thoughts, other people saying whatever they're going through, rolls off your back. So my example of Ricky and what he's going through with bringing this all in, I mean, he's getting comments every day. He's getting people challenging it, playing devil's advocate, being the ones being like, can you really do this? What did he even mean by this? And he just takes it in stride, and it challenges him to actually reach inside himself and solidify and get more and more and more comfortable with his truth. So it just becomes so easy. It's just coming out. It's there. It's right in front of your face. And that is beautiful, and it is admirable. I think, and I'm not just saying this because I know I'm totally biased, but like, I admire that trait in absolutely everybody. Every strong female leader out there that is coming forward with their message. Every single, all of the people that are speaking up with everything that's going on in the US right now. Like, I know it's crazy and a lot of it hurts, and I'm not going to get into it, but the voice is what matters. Being strong, being authentic, saying your truth, getting out there and helping people, being of service. Even watching Lindsay's interview yesterday with Ricky, right? Watching her be herself and stand exactly for, went through a hard time, a very uncomfortable time, in order to come to these very, very amazing realizations of what she's here to do in this world. But she made it. She's on the other side, and she's changing people's lives because of it, mine included. And I'm so grateful for that experience. So we all have something to give this world. And I love that this talk turned into this, because fuck yeah, like that's it, right? But if we can just get out of our head, get into our heart, get into our lives, get into our truth. And, I know for you guys who are part of this group, I hope you guys know that every single person who is a member you're gifted. You're welcome, Charlene. Thank you. You're gifted a coaching conversation with any of the coaches that you want to work with. And I'm going to put in that link in there, so you can fill that out. You can share it with, if you have any other friends that are in this group and they haven't taken advantage of that part of the membership yet, please do, because sometimes your truth is on the other side of that uncomfortable conversation. And every single coach that works with Elevated is someone who is going to carry you with so much love and so much grace through that uncomfortable conversation. Because every single one of us does this because we truly believe that every single person deserves to live a life of freedom, deserves to live that life in their truth. Because what else are we here for? Thank you all so much. I'm at 8 o'clock. I just want to open it up. If there is any other questions, I will stick around to answer them. But I hope this was helpful, and I will post. I will give my list like I normally do at the end there for everybody, just to give those tips and those. I'm going to post that video for you, Charlene. I'm going to post the tips there that I gave at the end, and I will put the link to the questionnaire for anybody who is feeling brave, is feeling ready to get uncomfortable and to be held in love, and wants to take that next step. So thank you all very much, guys. I appreciate all the love and the support as always. I'll talk to you all soon. Bye.